engagement to the Somalis in the United States is because he has been engaging, listening, and understanding. So I would encourage the other ambassadors to do the same and even create an opportunity where they can give the Somali diasporas in Europe, North America, to directly participate into the designing the initial stage of the development projects in Somalia. And the final one, which is support from the international community. I think if we get these three roles, we can come with a very well-coordinated diaspora engagement. Otherwise, within the USA, we have so many talented Somalis, so many organizations, so many different organizations. So we cannot do that much without coming effective approach that we can work with the Somali federal government and eventually build the capacity of Somali public institutions. Thank you.
Thank you, Abdurrashid. I'd like to present over to Deek Africa.
Assalamu alaikum again. My name is Deek Mohammed, Executive Director of Forces Fund. And I would like to see the federal government take a proactive role in extending the existing enabling environments for diaspora and civil society engagement in a productive manner. At Forces Fund, we get a lot of questions from amazing, active diaspora, young people in the diaspora who want to come to Somalia and start a business, create opportunities and jobs. But the issue is the business registration process takes way too long. And I think maybe if the government can take a proactive role in extending these enabling environments and making it easy for civil society organizations and diasporas to actively, get engaged and create opportunities and jobs. That's the best way to engage, I think.
Thank you, that's excellent. And finally, before turning back to the government's response, Joe here.
Thank you very much, Chair. I welcome that the Somali federal government included the National Development Plan strategy to engage Somali diaspora, but also look ways of Somali diaspora can contribute. As the chair of Global Somali Diaspora, I know, speaking to Somalis here in UK as well as globally, and our board members who are global representation, the Somali diaspora are crying really out to contribute to Somali and federal government development plan, how they can contribute. And I think if the Somali government can have action plan, in terms of how that strategy in engaging, action plan that can implement that strategy, I think will be very, very helpful. Because the Somali diaspora is here, and there is huge expectation from Somali people in the country as well as outside in terms of what Somali federal government can do. We know realistically there are a lot of challenges ahead, but Somali diaspora is here to support, and I think that action plan will be very useful. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'll now turn to Special Envoy Marian Yassin.
Thank you very much for giving me the floor. Very briefly, the Deputy Prime Minister will conclude, but I would like to touch upon on issues on diaspora, migration, and civil society. Definitely, the National Development Plan has a very clear chapter on diaspora as well as mixed migration, which really makes our National Development Plan one of the actually most advanced in Africa. And definitely, the Ministry of Planning is working to make this implemented. I also would like to inform you that there's something that has been in the pipeline. As you are aware, the federal government of Somalia was very active in the Valletta summit, and out of the Valletta summit we have created our Somali National Action Plan post-Valletta based on the needs of the Somali federal government. And in that, we have actually highlighted the importance of the diaspora, among others, and especially on harnessing the efforts of the Somali diaspora to create more synergy so they can collaborate together to minimize the negative effects and to have more collaboration and avoid duplication, and that will be actually be finalized by this government, inshallah. The other issue that I wanted to raise is that we also need to invest in the Somali youth in Somalia after they graduated, because they are at a very high risk, risky and irregular migration because they don't have opportunities. So we might think about a MEDA program for Somalis in Somalia, but also from non-European countries. In conclusion, of course, the civil society is a key actor in whole process, and Abdurrahman and Dini, as you remember, we could not have this provisional constitution if we did not have a very good collaboration between the civil society and the, at the time, transitional government of Somalia. And of course now we want to continue and definitely be sure that the government of Somalia recognize the efforts of the civil society, and of course I'm there as your voice. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Finally, I'd like to invite the Deputy Prime Minister to make some remarks.
I will conclude later, but we will continue through the agenda. Yeah.
I think we've come to time anyway in this session, so I will be happy to hand over to Joanna Roper to take us forward to the next session.
Great, thank you very much indeed. We've heard a lot of very excellent comments and contributions today on how the diaspora and civil society can contribute to the development and humanitarian space, inclusive and representative political participation, and how to create an enabling environment to enable people to contribute fully. Specifically, we've heard a lot of very good ideas about how to turn these ideas into practical action, and that's the focus of this session for the next 15 or 20 minutes. So we have got a lot to cover, but we've already looked at the importance of skills and knowledge transfer from the diaspora to business and civil society, the role of first responders to the humanitarian response, the vital importance of remittances and working together and partnerships, and of the role of civil society holding governments to account as well. I'm going to call a number of speakers. I'm going to have to ask you to be very, very tight in your interventions and contributions, please. But let's start by taking this from the ideas into practical action. What are the next steps towards closer partnerships? So could I first call on Dr. Yusuf Omar, who I think is sitting to my right. Thank you very much.
Okay, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'm also a board member of Global Somali Diaspora as well. As Somalia is defined as a nation of poets, I could actually start with Allah madashu fi'na mamusku wa ana dadka meesha yimid iyo maalinku wa habboona of the which I think your motion and mood and feeling you can also just would like to share with you my feelings and thoughts regarding to diaspora civil society side event. It was a process of learning in my case, and it was rich and diverse and positive and constructive in nature as well. It has been highlighted the importance of trust building, peace and nation building as well. And that's in line with the vision of the President of Somalia, Mohamed Abdullahi Farmajo, and his public commitment when he said, my government is a government of dibu heshiisiin and dibu reconciliation and rebuilding. And in that sense, I think the Somali federal government, diaspora, civil society, UN, and UK, and Somali friends could actually think collectively the best way to respond to the root cause of Somali challenge or the drivers of violence. Education, employment, basic health, and enabling environment are essential and very, very necessary. Peace and security on one side and development are two sides of the same coin, and each one can facilitate the other one. And peace, in fact, its own. However, the discussion from yesterday and today was about these initiatives should be driven by a Somali perspective. It should be a locally owned project strengthened by the international community, UN, and friends of Somalia. The role of women and youth has been highlighted a lot, but actually something that taken my attention was the important role of the people with special needs. Actually, their voices and views can touch the hearts and the minds of everyone. They are peacemakers in Niger. I might conclude very inspirational words, and also he could correct me if I misquote him, the ambassador of UK to Somalia, when he said, talking to Iran, Somalia is experiencing now the problems, the headaches, the challenge, under the challenge of a country that is coming together rather than a country that is falling apart. So the Somalia really is coming together and is recovering. That's the reality. In conclusion, the final word.
Could I ask you to conclude, please?
Okay, final word. The Somali government, the diaspora civil society should establish a platform that could follow up these activities.
Thank you very much. And I'm delighted to welcome the President of Somalia, President Farmajo. Good morning, sir. Thank you very much indeed for joining us today. We'll conclude this session and then we'll invite you, sir, to say some closing remarks. Thank you very much indeed. Can we move on to Fatun Adan, who I think is just over there. Thank you very much.
Good morning for everyone. We're talking about the whole. Thank you for everyone and the President and Deputy Prime Minister. And we conclude in how can we work together, the civil society, the government, and the diaspora. The way we talk whole day was we're talking about a good thing for diaspora doing in Somalia, but also another things we talk about it. We should talk about. It's the diaspora doing a lot of great things, but also we're talking about the knowledge. Somalia, we have a lot of knowledge. We have a lot of the local youth who are educated in Somalia and looking for opportunity to be part of it. And we shouldn't forget about that. Another thing the recommendation is reconciliation. We need a reconciliation as a Somalia. And the reconciliation, when we're talking about the dialogue, it shouldn't be waiting in the outside Somalia. We could do it in Somalia. And the one we actually suffering as a Somali, we are the ones suffering. And I think we should take steps. And if we really mean it, to be part of the change of Somalia in this room, and we all of it, part of it, we can change. But if we just come into the conference and then leave it, that's not going to change. So we need to follow up and be serious and involved.
Thank you very much indeed. Could I next call on Geeta Bandi Phillips, who is my right. Thank you.
Thank you very much. President Farmajo, Michael Keating, SRSG, guests. It's great to be here. I just want to say 3 recommendations going forward, what NGOs can do to help the new partnership. One of them being the new National Development Plan. This is one of its kind, and it's the first one since 1986. And the consultations have been real, fruitful, and all the NGO partners are raring to go and crack on. So that is quite exciting, and we are looking forward to it, and ensuring we work very closely with the federal government. The second recommendation I want to make, and all the humanitarian sector in Somalia has a big role to play, is the Grand Bargain. So the Grand Bargain talks about and trying to nurture them to become the partners we want them to be. So the reign of international organizations for the past 25 years has been brilliant, but I think it's time that the Somali colleagues take over from us and, start working for the development of their own country. And I think we are very excited, and there are lots of champions here in this room, so looking forward to working with them very closely. And the last thing I want to recommend, I also chair the advocacy group for Somalia NGO Consortium. There is a vibrant group of advocates in Somalia. So please make use of us. So, for example, we're talking about debt cancellation or averting a famine in Somalia. We have done some good stuff around averting famine in Somalia. But we are doing new things. We are voice of people, and the younger generation is there and wanting to help. So make use of us. Another side effect, not intentional, but a side effect, is that we have created a lot of cabinet for President Farmajo. So the humanitarian sector takes a big chunk out of new cabinet. So there are people who are actually helping. So let's keep building on it.
Thank you very much indeed. Some really constructive comments and suggestions there. May I pass over to my colleague on my right, Michael Keating, for the next.
Really? Well, thank you very much. Delighted to welcome you to this meeting, and I think you are an example to us all of someone from both diaspora and, may I even say, civil society, who's come back to enrich the future of Somalia. All I want to say is this has been a very productive discussion, lots of very practical ideas as to how diaspora and civil society can play a role in Somalia's political, economic and social future. And I think if there's one message coming through, it's an appeal for a more structured approach to ensuring that engagement. There is no shortage of issues, but there's a sense that there could be a more deliberate and structured way in which the government can benefit from the intellectual capacity, the financial resources, and all the other attributes that civil society and the diaspora has. And so I think what some of us are being asked to do is to huddle after this meeting and work with colleagues to figure out what those more structured approaches would be, whether they're around the constitutional review, whether they're around security, whether they're around boosting investment and economic growth, whether they're around reconciliation or building capacity. So let me just stop on that note and say what a great meeting, and I'm so grateful to everybody who has come to it, because we're going to have a long to-do list to come out of this, and we certainly want to work with you, Mr. President, and your government to make sure that the fabulous potential of the diaspora and civil society is fully realised in the months and years ahead. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. I think I have one more possible speaker, and then we have a couple of minutes for other interventions, and I'll hand over to the President. Thank you very much. Do we have Abdi Sattar Gila in the room? Thank you.
Thank you very much. As a federal government of states, we really had many fruitful discussions here. This discussion has been very important for us, and I hope we will address all the suggestions and the challenges you raised. To broaden the discussion and to share with you the vision of federal government of Somalia, federal government of Somalia want to see more Somali diaspora investment into Somalia with in line in government priorities, But we would love to see more knowledge and experience transfer to Somalia with good cooperation of civil society and government policies. And lastly, and the most important part, we would like to see Somali diaspora taking part action and advocating the interest of Somali people and urgent issues in Somalia. We are aware all the challenges we are seeing, but this government has come and enjoys with the wider support of Somali diaspora, and I hope you will see from us something that really addresses all that issue. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed for that response. We had some very, very good constructive contributions there about knowledge, about reconciliation, about harnessing the energy and enthusiasm and to make it practical and structured. Thank you very much indeed for your response, and I'll hand back to the Deputy Minister. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, everyone. Before I invite the President to close, Mr. President, it's an honor for me to welcome you to this session on diaspora and civil society organization and youth as well. We have a very good and fruitful discussion on diaspora contribution on economic, political and humanitarian interventions and building trust between the role of between the diaspora and civil society and also the youth. We discussed decision making, peace and governance, the relationship between diaspora and local youth, the integration of the Somali diaspora in their respective countries, and how the Somali youth are now currently leaders of the country, not only the future leaders of Somalia, but already they have a positive role to play. I would like to conclude in a couple of words. The discussions were really fruitful, and the way forward for the federal government is that we do more investment, knowledge transfer from the diaspora. But I would like to remind you that this government is only 40 days old. We were approved by the House of Representatives on in the first day of April. President Farmacho was elected 8 February, and in 2 weeks' time, he appointed a Prime Minister who in 3 weeks' time appointed also, formed a cabinet. But we take stock of the positive contribution of this discussion and the novel ideas put forward. Now I will welcome the President to conclude.
Thank you. Thank you, Deputy Prime Minister. It's a great honor for me to be here today, this event on diaspora and civil society contribution to Somalia. Excellencies and distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I wanted to thank you all for organizing and participating in this event on diaspora and civil society contribution to Somalia. The federal government of Somalia do acknowledge the effort and support that Somali diaspora do provide to Somali people. Somali diaspora had always been and still is one of the main contributors to Somalia. They bring much needed capital, investment and knowledge expertise into Somalia. I am glad to announce that the federal government of Somalia will establish National Diaspora Agency, NDA, that will help and facilitate more diaspora contribution into Somalia. On the other hand, the federal government of Somalia does acknowledge the positive contribution made by Somali civil society to Somalia. My government will address the challenges Somali civil society face and facilitate their positive contribution to Somalia. I want to make just one announcement. Tonight we have a big event, and I will speak with all Somali community here in London. I wanted to invite you, all diaspora and civil society tonight, and I think it will be a great and more discussion event. Thank you.
And thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for a brilliant start to the conference.
Before I close, I'd just like to invite Mr. Mohammed Ali Farah, who is representing particularly the handicapped, and we haven't heard much about that today, to say a few words, and then we'll close up. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. I'm called Mohammed Ali Farah, and I'm glad to speak in front of you. Also, I wanted to thank for UK government, United Nations and Somali government for inviting me to come here to participate in this fruitful meeting. I wanted to say one thing that I have already yesterday put my effort in the pre-event meeting that we held yesterday, FCO. I'm representing Somali Disability Empowerment Network. It's an organization, is a non-profit organization that works and assists the rights of disabled. As we are aware, persons with disability in some countries, like African countries and developing countries, face huge challenges that resulted in their exclusion from the mainstream of the society, making it difficult to access the fundamental rights like economic, social, political and cultural rights. I request this platform to highlight the issue of those unreported histories, or the issue of those people with disability that usually in every table. So that I request you to add the communique, either tomorrow meeting or today, this issue for disabled people. In Somalia, people with disability are estimated 15% as WHO report 2001. So those people, they are a grave number. And we need to highlight or to address those people, to include and make it inclusive in every platform like these things. So tell me to talk, even though it's the last time, I'm happy. Thank you.
Thank you, Mohammed. And I think the fact that you spoke last actually is an attestation of the fact of how important the issue to the discussion that has taken place this morning. Already a lot of praising words have been said about it. Just a few points maybe. First of all, that we have a very vibrant diaspora and civil society in Somalia, and very close cooperation is required between that diaspora, civil society, particularly at the local level, if we want to avoid some of the tensions we have seen in post-conflict and fragile environments in other places. So this is very important. The role of the diaspora cannot be underestimated, not just in terms of transfer of knowledge, but also particularly resources. And clearly we see that, but increasingly hope that would see these contributions from the diaspora also go towards more longer-term developmental and reconstruction processes. The role of women, clearly this should go beyond the numbers. In spite of the major challenges that women still face in Somalia, they are major agents of peace and change in the country, and therefore we should recognize that and work with them very closely. Important role of diaspora and civil society in terms of building an enabling environment for the change, but at the same time we need to build an enabling environment in which civil society and diaspora can contribute to that change on a way forward. So we need to take away the different obstacles that may be in their way of actually cooperating. And then finally, just to say that civil society, NGOs, diaspora will play a key role in terms of the implementation of the various roadmaps that we have agreed upon and will agree upon here in the conference. We'll be talking later about these, but in particular I want to mention here the National Development Plan, the Security Pact, and of course the National Partnership, the new partnership that we are about to conclude in the next few days. Thank you very much for your cooperation. It was a wonderful meeting, and I think we'll take a lot of conclusions forward out of this meeting. Thanks again.